What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host who does the most, Ethan Smith. Hope you all are having a phenomenal Thursday. It's been a very interesting week. We've had already 2 episodes this week, maybe 3, depending on if we get another guest on the episode. But you saw Gary Morgan on Monday. You saw Dylan Spalding on Tuesday. May have seen a guest yesterday. That is pending. If you guys want to DM me and be on the podcast, just let me know. It's always a fun time here in the Locked On Pirates podcast. And today we have yet another guest on the show. Doug, long-suffering fan, as he likes to put on his Twitter, will be joining us today here on the Locked On Pirates podcast to talk about the optimism Pirates fans should have heading into 2022, as well as pressure being put on Ben Cherington already. Should there already be some pressure on the general manager with a lot of the players that he has acquired, currently about to come up to the roster pretty soon. But guys, thank you so much for always tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast, for making me your first listen of the day every single day. You could follow on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. You can also follow this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey, and Google Play. And by the way, we were at 100 subscribers and lost it a little bit, but we could get back up to it. Don't worry, guys. Hopefully all the content is phenomenal for you and we get back to that point. But let's go ahead and get right into today's episode.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Awesome. And what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. And we are joined today by Mr. Douglas Ford. Doug, how are you doing today, sir?
Ethan, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to it. I love talking to Pirates fans and young Pirate fans in particular.
Oh, yeah.
I sometimes I can't understand why there are any young Pirate fans. You guys have seen a lot of bad baseball.
Oh, yeah, of course. And, I mean, the thing is, too, as well, is, I mean, you look at it in terms of what I've seen. I've seen 3 playoffs in my entire life. And one of the things that you talked about to me before we started recording was optimism. And, you know, that's not exactly a word that we like to throw around in Pirates land because a lot of people are just not very optimistic. And for the right reasons, for the most part. Excuse me. I've had that lingering cough still. It's been interesting. But you brought up the fact that you're a little optimistic about what this team looks like heading into 2022, how things are shaping up, and I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on where that optimism comes from.
Normally, I'm not Mr. Sunshine when it comes to the Pirates. I'm a firm believer, especially with the past couple regimes, because they never had the depth that Ben Cherington has sort of created. So if you would, it seems like we're always counting on 3 guys to come through. One would come through, one would stay the same, and one would either take a step backward or get hurt. However, my favorite thing about what Ben Cherington done, and to be honest, he hasn't done anything that's improved the Pirates yet. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, he's improved the organization. Last year's draft was great, theoretically, but we don't know. Those are 4 high school kids. We don't know. We've watched lots of high school kids, not make much of an impact. I feel pretty good about Henry Davis at least making it to the majors, but those other 4, I have no idea. But as far as where my optimism comes from is that I think Ben Cherington, without saying so, acknowledges that nobody really knows anything. He goes out and get 11, 9 middle infielders and 9 outfielders and 10 starting pitchers. So somebody is going to have to come through. You know what I'm saying? If my guess is we start the season with either Kevin Newman or Cole Tucker starting and Anthony Alford starting, and maybe Michael Chavis, that sort of thing. But now, if they don't work out, you've got Marcano, you've got Diego Castillo, you've got Jack Sawinski and Travis Swaggerty, and somebody. I just believe that 4 of these guys out of the nearly 20 could take a step forward. I expect Brian Reynolds to probably take a little step back, but not necessarily. If we get a good leadoff hitter and Brian Hayes can just replicate what he did in the minors, I could easily see Reynolds RBIs going up. If Yoshi can give him some protection in the lineup, I mean, we batted Jacob Stollings fourth last year, and Gamble fourth last year, and Colin Moran fourth last year. If Yoshi 35 home runs, if he can hit 22 home runs, that could help Brian Reynolds sort of replicate what he did last year, even if he's not quite as good, just because he's going to have better pitches and have more guys on base, hopefully. The starting pitching looks better to me than it did last year. I like Zach Thompson. Everybody sort of poo-pooed him in that trade, but kid had a 3.24 ERA, and it was legit. His batting average, balls in play, and his fielding, independent pitching all sort of supported that. It wasn't fluky. So he was a rookie. I said this on Pirates Fan Forum. He would have been our ace last year, right? A guy with an ERA under 3.3. We do. I mean, all of our starters had an ERA of 5+. Yeah. So, I figure he's going to contribute. I like Bryce Wilson. I know you're in Braves country. I've been living in Georgia. Bryce Wilson's first start was against the Pirates. He beat them. Right? I think he shut them out. The kid's got some potential, and he never really got a chance to get into a rhythm with the Braves because they had so much pitching. So I expect Bryce Wilson to do something. I like JT Brubaker. He didn't pitch for 2 years. It's not a surprise that he ran out of gas. Yeah. So if he can sustain some of his, what he did in the early part of the season. I hate counting on Mitch Keller. But he did pitch better when he came up last year. Yeah. Now, I don't know. Hopefully he can continue that. But if he doesn't, there's Dylan Peters and Will Crow, and I hate watching him pitch. It's excruciating, but he did pitch better toward the end of the season. And then there's Rowanzi, and there's Yahuree. It just seems to me some of these guys are going to step up now, and we're not going to go out and give Ty Tom a bunch of or Nogowski, even though Nogowski started out great. Vargas. Some of these guys that we ran through last year, had no business putting on a major league uniform.
Oh, yeah, and I agree 100%. A lot of the stuff that you're saying is realistically what I'm getting with is I'm hearing you're saying the options are aplenty now. It didn't seem like the options were aplenty in 2021 and 2020. And, heading into that, I've said that a lot. You've heard me say that a lot is the dart throws. You have a dartboard theoretically right now in front of you if you're Ben Cherington, and you have, like I've mentioned, 9 middle infielders. One of them has to hit. 2 of them have to hit at some point, right? And then outfielding. One of them is going to hit. You mentioned all the pitching too. You didn't even mention the pitching that has the potential to come up this year, like you've already mentioned Rowenzi, but that's not including guys in 2023 that have an opportunity, like a Brennan Malone, a Carmen Majinski, a Quinn Priester, those younger guys that you mentioned as well, that could also really put a lot of onus on, hey, I'm here to take your job. And that's the thing that I like the most about what's going on right now with Cherington, and we'll talk about Ben Cherington in the other segment of today's episode, is he's basically creating a culture where he's saying right now there are so many young guys on this roster and in the system that no one's job is theoretically safe outside of a couple of players. I'd say Key Brian Hayes is definitely the third baseman. Roberto Perez, as of right now, is definitely the catcher. Brian Reynolds is going to play somewhere in the outfield. And Yoshi Tsutsugo probably has first base down for now, but even Mason Martin could start breathing down his neck pretty soon, and I love Mason Martin. I've had him on the podcast before. He's a phenomenal player, and again, I see no reason to why people shouldn't be optimistic. I understand the pessimism. We haven't seen this team win in now almost 6 or 7 years, but again, for a person like me and like yourself, we're used to seeing this. And I'm saying 6 to 7 years. You saw the team not have a winning season from 1992 to 2013. Oh, it was awful. It was a struggle. bad GMs, bad decisions, bad players. It was just awful. Some of it was really bad. And then you get a little hope, and
the starting rotation would get wiped out the day before the season started, 2001. It's like Jason Schmidt, Francisco Cordova, and somebody else all went down in the first, in the last week of spring training. And all that enthusiasm for the first year of PNC Park just right out the door.
Oh yeah, and I can only imagine being there, but that was a great I like the optimism. I like that there's other people like me that are optimistic, and also people should be optimistic if they want to keep their New Year's resolutions going about Built Bar. Built Bar, of course, is the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. It's a new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than one. You want to eat healthy, but it gets so boring by like week 3, you might be thinking this isn't worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, the chocolate is in Built Bars, which are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar and net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Built Bar also has so many flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. And Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors, so check out BuiltBar.com often to see what's new. Go to BuiltBar.com right now, use the promo code LOCKED15 or Locked On, both of them work I think, and you will get 15% off of your next order when you invest in the best protein bars on the planet. And another thing that you talked to me about, and we kind of alluded to already in this episode, was Ben Cherington and the job he has been doing, which has been theoretically a good one, but is the pressure already about to start mounting on him with a lot of these players that are going to be coming up being his own players that he has either acquired or drafted or, acquired in trades and stuff like that?
I think so. I mean, he's traded off
A lot of the Huntington guys and hasn't necessarily replaced them. We're not sure that Yoshi will be better than Moran. I think so, and I hope so, but we're not sure yet. Adam Frazier was a good second baseman. And he's
got a plethora of choices,
but someone's got to produce. The pitching staff now, the rotation is mostly going to be his. Brubaker and Keller are left over, but Quintana, Thompson, Bryce Wilson, Will Crow, Dylan Peters, Rowanzi, Yahure, other than Quinn Priester. Well,
and Burrows both are Huntington.
But again, the immediate guys that we're going to see are going to be Ben Cherington guys.
He's made a lot of moves. He's got a lot of
high ceiling guys and a lot of guys down the lower levels. But now,
Marcano, he tried to trade
for twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so to me,
Marcano be a good
player, and we've seen no sign of that AAA.
But that's his guy. I mean, he tried to get him in
Musgrove trade did and went back and got him again. Sawinski,
is on a 40-man roster. That's
his guy. Kanan Smith and Jigba, someone I'm really enthused about seeing. Michael Chavis.
Games this year, and God, I hope it doesn't.
I don't think it will, but it's going
to, his honeymoon is going to
end quickly.
Yes.
His fan club is going to turn on him because
you just can't blame it on the Cupboard
in Bear anymore. He's brought
in a lot of guys.
He's brought in a lot of guys that are going to be at AAA and ready to go.
We need to see produce. So, and if Kevin Newman and
Cole Tucker, beat them out. And keep them, in the minors, then we probably have a problem unless, some remarkable turnaround by those two guys. So
in my book, like I said to you earlier, he has not really done anything to make the Pirates better.
I mean, Ben Gamel has been probably his most successful pickup as far as positive production. So this year, I'm expecting to see some of his pickups
contribute to the win column, and I think a lot of people are. Again, you can look at these drafts and
we won this trade or we didn't win that trade. I don't know any of that yet. I don't know that till they get to the majors, and I can be patient. I can wait on Hudson Head and Andy Rodriguez and some of these guys he's brought in to see what's happening. But I'm expecting Marcano
or Hoyt Park or Michael Chavis and Anthony Alford.
These guys need to start contributing in a positive way, not just holding places
Anymore. So he needs his acquisitions
to start performing. He needs
the Pittsburgh Pirates
to start getting better, not just the Bradenton Marauders or the Greensboro Grasshoppers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, right. And I mean, the thing is as well is he's made some very good moves, I would say. I don't know if there's too many moves that he's made so far that many people would disagree with. I mean, again, seeing a lot of the guys like Josh Bell, Joe Musgrove, Jamison Taillon, Adam Frazier, seeing good players leave your team is always rough, right? But who is really fooling themselves to say that Adam Frazier, Joe Musgrove, Jamison Taillon, and Josh Bell were going to win this team 85 games and get them to the playoffs? It was never going to happen. So right. There's no point of keeping these guys on your roster when you could say, oh, I could trade Joe Musgrove and Jamison Taillon and all these guys for guys that are going to contribute to this team over the next couple of years, while these other players that I already have in the prospect pool will also be doing the same thing. And you've already seen the impact of some of those trades. I mean, the Joe Musgrove trade, you're going to see some impact soon. The Adam Frazier trade, you're already going to see Tucupita Marcano probably this year. And for the Yankees trade, you've already seen Roenzi Contreras. You've already seen Hoy Park from the other Yankees trade. You're going to see Diego Castillo probably at some point. So you're starting to see what the fruits of labor are finally going to start coming. You're going to start seeing a lot of these guys play. And one of the things that I think you realize that I also realize, and you heard Gary talk about on Monday, I'm assuming you listened to the episode, is you can't expect prospects to just come out and be on fire. None of these prospects are Wander Franco. Let's just get that out of the way now. None of these prospects are Andrew McCutchen in 2010 and 2011. They're just not, from what I know right now. They could turn into that, and if they do, I'm going to be elated about it, but the chances of that happening are like 1 in 1,000. It barely happens. And the one guy I always bring up is Jerry Kelenic. Number 3 prospect in baseball, comes up, hits below the Mendoza line, gets sent back down to AAA, comes back up, and then almost helps the Mariners make the playoffs. That's just how baseball works.
Mike Trout struggled
when he first came up. Bryce Harper struggled when he first came up. I mean, they got it together quick, but they did struggle. Barry Bonds hit, I think, 258 with 16 home runs his first season. Mm-hmm. Right now, you could see he was going to be great. And if O'Neal Cruz hits 258 with 16 home runs next year, I'll probably be thrilled. But that's not the great impact that people are hoping for. That might take 2 years. He's going to have to learn some things, just like Brian Hayes went through some stuff, last year. Right. I mean, it's funny when we think all of our prospects are going to be great, when right there on our current major league roster, 2 highly touted prospects, and last year even 3 if you counted Polanco,
Keller and Brian Hayes did not come out,
make the all-rookie team, right? Didn't make the all-star team, right? They struggled, they scuffled. But I'm not ready to give up on Brian Hayes. I think he's going to be great. I think he wins the Gold Glove next year. I think he improves his offense. But Major League is tough, man. It's hard to hit a curveball, right?
It is.
It's hard. It's hard to spot a curveball. So, it'd be great. I mean, wouldn't it just be great if at the end of the season, the top 2 Rookie of the Year candidates are Roenzi and O'Neal Cruz? I mean, that would be fantastic. Yeah. It's unlikely.
It's unlikely, but it's also something that I wouldn't exactly say is not likely. I mean, it's very anything is possible in the world of baseball. That's what I always say.
And to be honest with you, I'm not really
sure, what other rookies that, from other teams are going to be on. And that's always a part of it. But yeah, both of those guys look dynamic. Mm-hmm. And of course they'll have some struggles, but I mean, Roenzi throws 100 miles an hour with good control, and he seems to have that edge that,
mm-hmm. You wish Keller had that
presence on the mound, that sort of that bulldog mentality. Brubaker
seems to have that.
So,
again, there's pressure on Cherington for
his guys to produce, but I do believe that some of these guys are going to produce. I do think that there'll be some, and again,
I don't want to say big breakouts, but
there will be positive impact. And again, if O'Neal Cruz plays shortstop next year and gives us 15 home runs, a
260
average, I mean, that is a huge improvement from what we got last year. And if he just doesn't
in the infield. And I mean, one of the things we did, we made Kevin Newman, we taught Kevin Newman into being a better shortstop.
I believe we might be able to do that with O'Neal Cruz too. And I agree with you. You said in the past, if we're going to put him in the outfield, let's put him in the outfield
right now.
Today, find some Dominican league or something, put him in, and then put him in outfield in spring training, and then maybe send him to the minors for a month or two, pending, how the CBA works out and stuff. But yeah, I won't be mad if they decide to put him in, right field and he goes to the minors until June sometime and learns, some of it. You're not going to learn it all in 2 months, but
you're right. I don't want him, his first game in the outfield
to be played on opening day.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, what do you want to tell Pirates fans as we wrap up this podcast today, heading into 2022?
First, Pirate fans, I want to tell you,
I'm just thrilled that there are Pirate fans. I've lived out of Pittsburgh now for a long time. I hardly get to talk Pirate baseball, and I just I love Twitter and these podcasts to be able to do that. We've been through a long stretch of not very good baseball. Even those 3 teams that went to the won the wild card game, I don't think they ever really thought they were going to go too far.
No,
we didn't. Right. We were when we beat the Reds, that was exciting, and the 5 games with
the Cardinals, that was exciting. But man, the next 2 years we went against Arrieta, who I think won the Cy Young that year, and then Madison Bumgarner, and we didn't have a stud to match up to him. Garrett Cole at that point wasn't up to it. So I really believe, and the success I'm looking for is extended good play. The Tampa model, the Milwaukee. I don't want to be good for a 3-year window and know that it's all coming crashing down. I went through that with the 90, 91, 92. When that 92 team was over, we all knew it was over. Now, I didn't think it was going to take 20 years to get back. But you knew the game was changing. The finances of the game were changing. And, we weren't, forget. We all knew we weren't going to keep Bonds, but we couldn't keep Doug Dravic. And it was just like, man. And those teams we put out there, I remember Albert Bell made $10 million a year, and he made more than our entire roster. We swept the White Sox after the All-Star break, or right before the All-Star break. And that was the thing. It was like, man, they have one guy who makes more than our whole team, and he only made $10 million a year. It's not like what's his name, Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
But I think I really do believe we got some good days ahead. But again, the best thing that Cherington's doing is he is filling the system. We don't have a Wander Franco, but we got a Leo Verpagero and a Nick Gonzalez and Andy Rodriguez and Bubba Chandler. We got a lot of guys that we can look at. And of course, we all know they're all not going to work out. That's not how it goes. But when you've got this many options, someone's going to stick. And they might not be MVPs, but they might make a couple All-Stars. And, we see it. It looks like we could have 3 or 4 guys. I posted this on Twitter. You're not looking for 3 or 4 guys to come up and start and make an impact every year. But if you can get a 4th outfielder, a spot starter that gets groomed to be a starter, that's sort of where there's right now we need every one of our rookies to be a star.
Exactly.
We need to get to the point
where they come up and they are like Kevin Newman. You know what I'm saying? Like we can. It's like, all right, and not the 200 Kevin Newman, but a 250 plays good defense, can play multiple positions, and there's no pressure on him to save the team. He's just going to supplement the team.
Yep.
And I see those days coming.
So let's get through this lockout mess.
Keep listening
to the Locked On Pirates podcast, and I think we're going to have a good summer, and I think we're going to. I think we're going to see good things from the team this year, and then we're just going to build on it because then, it's the Quinn Priesters and the Nick Gonzalez and Henry Davises, some guys that we're really expecting, and who already look pretty good. I'm already convinced that they're going to be able to play. So,
Got to get ready for it. And yeah, of course, if you guys want to do what Doug did today, of course, you guys know I'm doing this viewer/listener series. Just shoot me a DM on Twitter. You can come on the podcast and talk. Also, thank you for making me your first listen of the day every day here on the Locked On Pirates podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan. You can follow Doug on Twitter. His Twitter handle is down there as well. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter at Locked On Pirates. Listen on YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey, and Google Play. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Doug, thank you for coming on and everything you had to talk about. And guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?